Well, hello, and welcome again to the 2012 Fad.com. I will be your host for this evening, and my name is Charlie Bluehawk. Last night, we talked about my friend the program, and the fact that I have now encountered repeating people twice now. Once in New Zealand, and again, actually just this week, and it's the middle of March 2011, here in Europe. The first time I encountered a repeating person, I guess I don't know what to call it actually. The first time was a very gay bodybuilder getting onto the bus from Island Bay to downtown Wellington, what they call the Central Business District, the CBD. And then here in Europe, the four American tourists, one Asian girl with one foot in the street, standing off the curb, which caught my attention because you really don't want to do that in Europe. And then there was her black boyfriend to her immediate right, and then one white man to his immediate right, and one white woman to his immediate right, all standing in a circle together as the Asian girl had out her blue folder, complete with color inkjet printouts, maps of the city, and how they were having a lot of fun arguing about which way to go next. And how I ran into them again 5 minutes later on the other side of this massive boulevard that they could not have jaywalked across. There were road dividers, there are street cars, massive traffic. You just can't do it. And yet there they were again, all in exactly the same configuration as I had seen them 5 minutes earlier, complete with the Asian girl, again with one foot in the street, off the curb, with her blue folder, complete with color printouts, inkjet printouts of the city, maps of the city. But this time, the second time, I actually stopped to talk to them. I wanted to see if they would respond, and the white girl did, and we spoke very briefly. We told some jokes. And then I crossed back to the other side of the boulevard, again, just so I could watch them from across the street, not to be too obvious. But by the time I crossed the street and turned around, they had vanished. I still have no idea what this could mean. If this is the real world, I don't know. What if it's not the real world? If right now you and I are both living inside of a large educational computer program, the only thing that comes to my mind, frankly, as a computer guy, is the program's breaking down. And if the program breaks down and we're still in it, what happens to us then? I have no idea. I really don't. Tonight, I thought we would chat about not my country, and how our government, in fact all governments in the Western world, are flooding our cities with foreigners. Now, that's not a bad thing, necessarily, but it's the kind of foreigners that our governments are bringing in. Firstly, they have no job skills at all. They are not doctors. They are not teachers. They're not even skilled office workers. They're just people. People with no usable skills at all. Now, I really have to be careful when I talk about foreigners, invading countries, because I'm an American, a U.S. citizen here in Europe, looking for work. Of course, I've had 25 years in international IT and corporate management and consulting. I've worked for NASA. I've worked for JPL. I've worked for Raytheon, Disney, Paramount, IBM, Toyota, Nissan. So I've got I got some leverage here. I'm talking specifically about people who have no job skills at all. No education, no training, nothing. And yet our government are bringing them into our countries and just dumping them. And it's more than that. They are people whose background, whose culture is so alien to our culture, to our background, that we literally have no common ground. We don't speak the same language. We don't, there's no social skills possible, the different dating customs. Everything is different. There's no common ground for us to live in the same city. Now, there's an example, regrettably. Several African gentlemen were dropped off in Santa Monica, California, which is a beach city right next to Los Angeles in Southern California. Now, these three guys were not from a major city in Africa. They were not educated in any way. They did not know the English language. They did not know the customs here. They probably knew what Coca-Cola was and what Nike was, but that was about it. Big international things that we all know. They were some small, really small remote village way in the outback. They'd never been in a shopping mall, and probably the only movies they'd ever seen on the United States were on someone's DVD player that was run off the local village's generator. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just telling you the truth. But all of a sudden, Uncle Sam, our U.S. government, picked them up from their village out of the middle of Africa somewhere. I don't even know the country. Gave them a living allowance, gave them a visa, gave them a place to live, and they dropped these 3 guys in Santa Monica, California. If they had received any cultural instruction at all about our customs, our language, our habits, maybe it was a 30-minute course. I have no idea. As far as I can tell, they got no cultural instruction at all. Now, I'm not saying that these 3 guys were stupid. What I'm saying is that they were not prepared for what awaited them in Southern California. Now, maybe if they had dropped these 3 African guys in Ottumwa, Iowa, they would have felt more at home. Not a lot of people, wide open spaces, very simple customs. They might have adapted. But to drop 3 grown men from Africa with no knowledge of our customs, our traditions, nothing, into Santa Monica, into Los Angeles, that's like dropping a baby into a blender. You can't do it without horror erupting. I mean, you can't even say it was culture shock. Culture explosion would probably be more accurate. So anyway, these 3 guys who knew nothing about the USA, except what they might have seen in a movie, and God help us what movies they might have seen. And I'm sorry, I was going to swear. I was going to say, she's sure as hell, they'd never encountered a beautiful white woman in a bikini before. And there was the problem. In their own culture, if a woman had displayed herself to any man like that, nude, and let's be honest, if you're wearing a bikini, you're nude. Now, a woman in his culture, their culture, displaying herself nude to a man, she would only do that for one reason, because she wanted to mate with him. This is not racism. This is simple